Hi everyone, welcome to Medi-Veggie. We're so excited to be here celebrating St. Patrick's Day and everything else. So I hope that all of my friends would turn on their cameras so we can see you all. So today is also, this month is also celebrating Women's Month. So we're super excited to not only celebrate St. Patrick's Day, Women's Month, and also Persian New Year. We also have, some sad news as well. So it's a very strange day we're starting out with. So I want to first say hi to everyone. So one of our, co-hosts, personnel who does all of our meditation is Dr. Smita Garg. I want to say hi real quick.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I just realized I forgot to change my virtual background.
Oh, that's okay. You look beautiful. Is that Mount Fuji?
It is, yeah, which is like I've never been to Mount Fuji, but it's one of my favorite mountains.
Well,
Yeah.
I wish I were there now, actually. And I also want to say hello to our other co-host extraordinaire, Ashley Hin, who's a new face to us, but we're always so excited to have you, Ashley. So she's going to present about Women's, History Month later today. And then our special guest, we have an artist today, and that's artist Hadi Agi. Hi, Hadi.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Very good. We're excited to have you. So speak up because we're all very loud here. So we're going to need you to be louder.
Glad to be here again.
Very good. And we're
happy to be invited again. Thank you.
Yeah, you must be doing something right to be re-invited, right? Well, for our audience, we'll be sharing Hadi's work after meditation today, his latest work, as well as his current exhibit that's at Evergreen Community College, Evergreen Valley Community College, right? And so let us know what's going on, how you're feeling today. How about I start with you, Dr. Smita? How are you feeling today?
Let me unmute. Yeah. So, in the last 2 weeks, I've lost two family members. So it has been a very strange time. And yesterday I lost my one of the people dearest to me, my uncle. And he lost his battle to cancer. And so my whole family is sort of engulfed in grief right now. And I am just, allowing myself to grieve his passing because I think it is so important to allow ourselves to feel whatever we are feeling. And I do want to thank Trami because I received an amazing surprise today. I didn't have to cook lunch. Lunch arrived home, and I think I won't have to cook for the next 2 days. Thank you, Trami, for the food you sent home. I so appreciate it, because
it's from
it allows...
the Medi-Veggie team.
Thank you, Medi-Veggie team, because, it's going to allow me space and time to just focus on what I need to do for myself and my family. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, so true to American tradition, normally you would get a casserole. We want to send you some food to, for comfort, and also just so you don't have time, take some time for yourself instead of cooking and taking care of your family.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your grief with us, and we hope that we can be of comfort to you today. And I know you're preparing
which is why I'm here.
I know you're preparing a very special meditation for those of us who are in grief, right? And now, it would be, I guess, we need to mention the tragedy that just happened out of Atlanta. And though we do not know the details of the shooting and if it were racially motivated yet, we still would like to acknowledge this tragedy and send our condolences to the victims and their families.
We can't deny that the victims are Asian, mostly. And there is a great increase in hate crimes against Asians. We must acknowledge and we must talk about it. Um, it just feels like we started with Black Lives Matter last year, watching the horrors unfold before our eyes. And there just seems to be this energy of hatred that's now moving on and affecting this different population. We really need to acknowledge that and do something about it.
Yeah. How are you feeling about it, Ashley? Like, you're of a different generation. I'm curious to see how you're feeling about that.
Yeah, it's definitely really shocking because I live in the Bay Area, which is supposed to be one of the most like diverse parts of California, and California itself is a really diverse and progressive state. But even so, like I still fear for my grandparents' lives, because they're the type of people that take walks and stuff outside. So it's kind of scary to see like so many hate crimes against Asian people, because my family could be like the next target.
Yeah. I have to say, I have not really, like, I kind of try to push things aside sometimes. And I think this week has been extra difficult to do. And I worry about Little Saigon in San Jose because it's such an easy target. And also the surrounding businesses that are Asian owned, as all of this is happening. And part of me thinks like, well, that's normal crime that happens, in that area. And then it's not just normal crime, it's beyond that. And I'm glad that President Biden is going to speak about that today. And
yeah, it's motivated, by hatred for people. And I think what happens is, I think what horrifies us is when something like that happens is, of course, we feel the pain of those that were violently killed, but then also the feeling of division that happens. It's almost like we are not supposed to belong, right? And I think that is very sort of like difficult for humans to kind of deal with, the feeling that somebody will not allow us to belong, or they choose for us that we cannot belong. Because belonging or wanting to belong is one of the most basic human desires. It's a big part of who we are, wanting to belong, wanting to feel the community, be a part of a community. All that is a big part of who we are as humans.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, hate is a wave that moves from one group in the society to another, to another, to another. I went through mine, and I lost a best friend of mine who got shot, and I was there. I survived. My car had 5 bullets in there. I survived, but I lost my friend, and that always affects me. And then that wave goes away. They turn the hate toward a different group, It just goes around. And I don't like the idea of campaign against hate for Asian, against hate for Muslim, against hate for Jews. It should be only one way. It's campaign against hate.
Exactly.
That's it. Put everybody together and say campaign against hate. Not when they say against Jews, okay, it means, oh, maybe we go to the Muslims now, or maybe we go to Asians now. Yeah, it should be just one voice, one plan.
Yep. I think you make a great point, because there will be another group next. Who's
next? It's always, yeah.
And it's always looking outside of yourself to blame somebody for what you are going through instead of looking within, right?
Right.
Most people avoid going within because there's a whole lot of crap sitting in there that hasn't been dealt with.
Yeah.
So it's just easy to go out and make somebody, the target of your issues.
Yep. Well, it's 12:15, so we're going to continue this conversation in a little bit. For now, we would like to welcome everyone to Medi-Veggie. Medi-Veggie is a program that Chopsticks Alley puts on every Wednesday, where we encourage health from the mind to the body. During the show, you will get to see vegetarian recipes or tips, and then, of course, a short 15 minutes guided meditation by Dr. Smita Garg. We are here every Wednesday at 12:15 p.m. PST. You can join us on Zoom or, watching us through all the streaming that we're doing on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and even LinkedIn on Trami Crohn's account. That's me. My name is Trami, by the way. I'm the founder of Chopsticks Alley. I never introduced myself. I don't know why. I think it's one of these things where we think as women, we tend to be in the background and we're comfortable there. We don't need to be highlighted. We don't need to be shown, right? So in today's, this month, we are celebrating Women's History Month. So we want to remind ourselves of the accomplishments of women throughout the year, for our culture and society, from science to politics. It is a chance to reflect on the trailblazing women who lead the way for change. This week, we will be focusing on Asian Americans who are from the Pacific Islands. So with that, I'm super excited to introduce our friend, our intern, our designer extraordinaire. She does everything for us, and that is Ashley. So I'm going to highlight you, Ashley, and then we're going to have you talk about the women that you chose actually today.
All right.
Okay.
Will you be sharing the slides?
Yes, I will. Here we go.
All right. Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning into my second presentation. As Trami mentioned, this week is going to be focusing on Pacific Islander women. And so for our first woman, we have Patsy Mink, who was a Hawaiian politician and attorney. She's the first woman of color and Hawaiian native to be elected for Congress. And during her time in Congress, she focused on anti-discriminatory policies such as writing bills like Title IX, the Early Childhood Education Act, and the Women's Educational Equity Act. And she was also the first Asian American woman to run for president. Next, we have Isabella Iona Abbott, and she is a Hawaiian educator, phycologist, and ethnobotanist, and also the first Native Hawaiian woman to receive a PhD in science. She was one of the lead researchers in Pacific marine algae and uses ethnobotany for her studies. And if you don't know, ethnobotany is the study of plants through the traditional knowledge and customs of the local people. So Isabella wanted to make sure that her work in science was still connecting and uplifting the culture of Hawaii. And our third woman is Ali Cravalho, which may ring a bell because she was a voice actor for Moana in the Disney's film Moana. She initially wasn't going to audition for the role because she said she felt like there were too many good competitors when she was watching through the reels. But then a scout for the film found her through another event and she ended up being casted for the role of Moana. And then last but not least, we have Toshiko Takaezu. She is a Hawaiian ceramic artist and painter. And although she created lots of different kinds of pottery, most of them were non-functional because she wanted her pottery to be seen as fine art rather than something practical. And most of her work focuses on challenging the ideas of what art is supposed to be.
Thank you so much, Ashley. That's so sweet. I've never heard of these women except for Moana, of course, right? So that's the point of this whole thing is we do this so that way we can, highlight and spotlight these amazing women. So thank you for that. And the next segment we have is, of course, the recipe that we're going to be sharing today. And it's cassava chips with Mina. Mina's not with us today because she's like happily skiing down some slope, being a ski bunny or something like that, and leaving all the work to us. And we also want to let you know Esther is here. She's behind the scenes today. And so, Esther, if you're ready, please share. Thank you.
Hello. Today I am going to be making Indian style mogul, which is actually yucca or cassava root. This is what it looks like when you get it in the store, and you can then peel the outside, and that's what this looks like. You can also buy cassava in a sliced frozen fashion, which makes things a lot easier as well. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is chop this up, and these are going to be done in a wedge style, and I'm going to boil them for about 20 minutes. It's quite a fibrous kind of vegetable.
That looks like a lot of work.
So now we have some vigorously boiling water in which I'm going to put in just a little bit of canola oil so that it doesn't stick, and a little bit of salt, probably about 1 tablespoon of salt. Oops, there you go. And then I'm going to slowly place these in.
That's interesting. You boil them
So
first.
this is what the cassava looks like when it is boiled. You can see it's kind of soft. It's been out on there in the boiling for about 20 minutes, probably do 15. These are a little bit overcooked. Go ahead and mix that all together in the oil. So let's go ahead and do half a teaspoon of the garlic, half a teaspoon of the salt, half a teaspoon of the cumin coriander, a quarter of a teaspoon of the chili powder, 1/6 of a cup of the lemon juice, and we're going to go ahead and mix that up. So that's all mixed up. It smells very good.
Looks yum.
I know. I'm like kind of drooling because of the lemon. Oh, so she bakes them? Mm.
Probably air fries them. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Now I'm going to put it in the oven at 425, 450 or so, until that they are nicely crisped and roasted. So I'm guessing probably about 12 to 15 minutes.
Oh, that's
So
it.
here we have these wonderful cassava chips right out of the oven. And look at, they're nice and caramelized, and they are crunchy like a potato wedge. My favorite way to eat these is either with sriracha or ketchup or any other kind of other sauce. I've got some sriracha on one side and ketchup on the other. And let's just give these a try. There's some ketchup.
Crunch, crunch, crunch.
So yummy. Hardly any of the calories of potato.
Wow.
Really good. I suppose I should share these with my family
Or with us, Mina.
and have it perhaps with a good beer or cocktail. Happy appetizers. Bye.
Beer and appetizer is okay for Medi-Veggie, right?
Ginger beer.
Oh, that's right. We have Emma. So yes, ginger beer is okay.
Yes.
As long as there's ginger in it. Hi, Emma. Thanks for joining us. So Hadi, why don't you tell us about Persian New Year and how you guys celebrate that, what that's about? We did some research, but we want to hear it from the source. And that's you. You're the expert today.
You have Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year here. Persian New Year is all three combined together. It's a really big celebration. Of course, last year and this year, because of the pandemic, it's all dampened, you know. It cannot be celebrated as before, but it's one of the biggest celebrations in the Persian world. And I'm sure you hear my dog, even though he's outside. Sorry about that.
We love dogs on the show.
The entire last month of the year is very busy for everybody, and I can divide it into 7 different things that we do. The first one they call Khane Takani, means by word translation, it means shaking the house, and that means a lot of cleanup you have to do, remodeling, replacing furniture, whatever you have to do. Everybody does it on that month to clean everything. Send all the rugs to the rug cleaning companies to clean it, and they all get ready in that aspect. And the second phase is the shopping, of course. Everybody go shopping for the family. The next one is called Char Shambe Suri, which is the last Wednesday of the year, which is today. You may see in clips on the news, sometimes people are jumping over a bonfire. That's one of the celebrations that goes back almost 2,000 years, when the fire and the sun was what people worshipped in the old religions. And when they jump over the fire, they use the phrase of Zardiye man as to, surkhi to as man, which means my yellow to you, your red to me. And yellow represents the sorrows and all the unhappiness that you went through or exists within you during this year, to get rid of it and take the light and the warmth of the sun to start with for the new year. That's what the celebration is all about.
That's so beautiful. Like, that's like, I've never heard that. I love it.
Yeah,
Sorry to
it's
interrupt.
one of everybody is doing that at home right now, back home.
So do you have your bonfire ready for today?
I have a bun in the oven. I don't I will jump
Jumping over the oven, I don't know. Okay, what else?
And the last Thursday of the year is the time, like you guys make a altar to remind yourself of the ancestors and families. What we do the last Thursday, everybody goes to the cemetery to visit those who have passed away, all the family members. And that's one tradition, also part of the ceremonies. The next thing is for the new year, they create what we call hafsin. There is 7 items start with sin, which is the same as S in English, the alphabet X in English. They start with that letter, and each one of the items represents something which is usually has to do with happiness, good health, and prosperity for the coming year. And because the new year in Iran, they celebrated the minute and second that the year changes. Sometimes it's in the 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. No matter what time it is, at that very moment, the whole family is up, even if it's in the middle of the night, sitting around this hafsin. And then as soon as the second hits, everybody congratulates each other, hug each other. Happy New Year.
Is there like drinking champagne, beer?
I'm sure some families do, some families don't. It depends how religious they are. Right? So as I remember, the celebration goes for 13 days. When I remember, my school was off 13 days. They used 13 because 13 in the bad luck. They tried to make it a good luck on the 13th of the year. Almost everybody is out picnicking. The entire nation is out picnicking. If you want to rob a house, that's the day.
Well, I love that, turning a negative into a positive. That's really
yeah. So
thanks.
So is it based on the lunar calendar, Hadi?
No, it's a
Navroz?
solar.
Solar? Okay.
Solar year, yeah.
That's wonderful. So you can tell us more about it. Like I'm curious to know like what you eat, what other traditions, especially like what do men have to do and what do women have to do. But before we get to that point, we have reached a point of where we normally do our meditation. So Dr. Smita, we would like for you to lead us into meditation. Thank you.
Sure. So today's meditation is an ode to those who have passed on, transitioned. We are seeing a lot of death, right? I mean, there's over 500,000 who have died because of coronavirus. And then we are seeing a lot of death in terms of the racist attacks. It's all out for everyone to see. I think that's one of the things that's happened with us being at home and being glued to television or social media, that we at least know what is going on, but then we aren't really shown or told how to deal with it. So it's like we look at it, we watch it, we get affected by it, but we don't know how to kind of resolve it within our system. The horror or the grief or the pain and the trauma that we are watching unfold before our eyes. So today's meditation is going to focus on learning to resolve that trauma and not suppress it, not walk away from it, but really face it and then resolving it within ourselves. So find yourself a comfortable spot to sit down, as always, and let us begin. And I will turn off my video. Okay. And now, if you're comfortably seated in a quiet spot, just close your eyes and bring your attention to your body. How are you feeling today? Are there any achy joints in the body, any parts of your body that are feeling tired or are feeling a heaviness or soreness? Just observe and send a loving thought to that part of your body. And now bring your focus to your breath. Just breathing normally, gently, easily. How does your breath feel? Does it feel fast or slow? Easy or labored? Whatever it may be, simply observe. And now take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold for a moment and release through your mouth. Make the release a little longer than the inhale. Take another deep breath in through the nose. Hold and release through the mouth. And one more deep breath in through the nose. Hold and release. And now just focus on your regular breath, breathing in, breathing out. The cycle of birth and death is constantly in motion in our lives. In between birth and death, happens what we know as life. This cycle repeats in every part of nature. Every animal is born and dies. Everything in nature is born anew and then reaches an end. We've just begun spring on this side of the world, and then there will be summer, fall, and winter. And then winter will lead us back to spring. The old dies out and the new comes in. And then the new becomes old and dies out, and the cycle keeps going on. Sometimes it is tough to let go of what we knew. People dear to us, those meaningful relationships. When our loved ones pass on, it is especially hard. We hold on to memories and try to move forward. The grief of losing a loved one can go deep. Let us look at grief. It can arrive at any moment, in any shape or form. Losing a loved one or a relationship or a horrific event can put us in that state of grief in no time, and it is a heavy energy. Grief feels so heavy, as if we aren't able to move while we are carrying the burden of grief. And what if we allowed its space? And what if we kept breathing through it? Let us take a deep breath in now and release. In recent days, death is in news. Death due to COVID, death due to racism. We are watching so much horror unfold right before our eyes. And just yesterday, 8 Asian Americans were killed. How do we deal with this violence? How do we deal with this pain? Let us take a moment and bring our attention to all those who transitioned. those we knew and those we didn't know, those who died for no fault of theirs, for being a certain color or religion, those who died of COVID, and those who were part of our lives, or perhaps somebody else's life. Let us collectively send them love. Let us also send love to their loved ones who are grieving. Perhaps it helps to know that those who died are in a place where there is no illness, no violence, no racism, no divisions, no hatred. They are in a place of love, surrounded with love. Let's take a deep breath in and let go. When we are born, the point where we leave our mother's body is the point we take our first breath. And at the time of our death, we take our last breath. Breath is the sign of life. Breath is what keeps us moving and going. When grief arrives, bring yourself back to breath, and it will help move and shift the grief, gently nudging you forward. Just as the sun shows up every morning and spring arrives after every winter, grief goes through its own seasons if we allow it to. Just breathe through it and let it flow. Don't suppress it. Don't avoid it. If tears come, let them come. Let them flow. Don't suppress anything. Accept everything. Take another deep breath and let go. Namaste.
Thank you so much, Mita.
You're
Whew.
welcome.
Yeah.
You know, I have always felt that in this culture, the American culture, people try to hide grief and they try not to express it. And I come from a culture where we go through days of grieving where we accept it, we cry openly, we cry for as long as we need to. And I feel like it really helps. It helps. Families sit and cry together,
Yeah.
you know? So there's a very healthy acceptance of death. And I've also found that when you are at a distance from those, loved ones who transition, it's harder to deal with death. So the family that's, for example, the family that's back in India, they're all together, and they're kind of experiencing it together, and they help each other move through it. But then everybody who's here, they are at a distance, and so they feel it much more, and it's harder to get through it.
I think it's a different culture, because I think over here it's you have this sense of like, oh, I should leave them alone so they can do it on their own, and or otherwise I'm imposing myself, and right. So it's a very different thing, where in the other
Yeah.
culture it's more like, oh, you don't want to leave them alone, they need company because they're sad, right? So it's a
Yeah,
completely different way of viewing things.
totally.
Right, because if we did the opposite here, if we like impose ourselves, maybe that person gets completely irritated because they're like, hey, you need
Yeah.
to stay in your space, give me mine, right? So I
There's no concept of space in my culture.
yeah,
Personal space.
yeah, it's like in mine too, there's no concept of that. So maybe the medium is that everyone should do it in their own way.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah.
So, Hadi, with your mentioning of the new year, and how there's also a day where you dedicate that or pay attention to more of the ancestors, I think that's really a good tie-in to, the new year and then death. And can you tell us more about that? Like, why do we do that? You're on mute, by the way. Like, why do we, why is it so important to recognize our ancestors in your culture?
I guess try to keep their memory alive, especially as you get new generation. You have to teach them where they come from. Why are they have a life they have today? Because of them, because of the past. So this is something that passes on every year. And I mean, I listen to Smita. I've been here too long. I've been losing my family one by one, all from far, And
isn't it harder, Hadi?
Well, it's hard for me more than others because I am the only one. I don't know a single person that I knew back home, because I came here when I was 19. And when you have nobody to put your head, your shoulder to talk about your feelings, it's very hard for me.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. And if you're a sensitive person, being an artist, which you are,
person too.
yeah, it makes it even harder.
Hard, yeah. But on the other hand, I think in my culture, they overdo it. They have the first day that they bury, they have the 7th day, they have the 30th day, they have the 40th day. Every time they gather and mourn, and it happens every year. They overdo it. It's just too much mourning. Yeah, I like it to cut down a little bit.
I think the medium that Trami was discussing earlier, right? That a happy medium where you aren't forced to do it if you don't want to be a part of that collective mourning for years.
They put the religion on it that
yeah.
on the 3rd day you do this, on the first week you do this, because they put the name of religion on it, everybody think they're obligated to do that, you know.
Right.
Yeah, that's
But at the same time, you know, there's the other aspect that for some it takes longer, for some it takes shorter, you know, and so everybody's sort of included in there and taken care of. That's the other part of it, right? Nobody's left alone. We have so many problems because in our country here, nobody checks on people, right?
yeah.
And so there's so much mental disease because of that, because of loneliness, that there's no one. And I think one of the things I feel when we talk about bringing in ancestors is, again, if we can circle back to that point that every human wants to belong. So when you are when you are connecting to your ancestors, whether through tradition or in any other way, you are you are actually accessing that sense of belonging, and it roots you here. And if you don't have that rootedness, then you can feel very lost.
Well, we would like to root this next session to have Hadi really share with us your artwork. We love it because your artwork is in your face, and it's perfect for celebrating Women's Month. So I'm going to formally introduce.
It's a double edge in your face. It either turn you off or want you to talk about it. I have had two different views on that. Yeah.
Sure. So I'm going to formally introduce Hadi for everyone. So originally he's from Iran, as we shared earlier. He grew up metal smithing in his father's shop, which was located in a tourist district, surrounded by travelers from all over the world. And this created this curiosity, and he finally moved to the United States in his early 20s. And because the revolution broke out, he was financially cut off, yet he still pursued a degree in civil engineering technology and later electronics engineering. And he worked in the semiconductor industry until he became a stay-at-home dad, which I think that's super cool, by the way, because that's like, let's talk about that. That's like really interesting. So we'll do that after. But you are the only member. So he's the only member who moved here, as he mentioned. And so then he has to channel himself, his grief, his thoughts and feelings through the arts. And he, talks about the mistreatment of Iranian women, about, how women are treated from all over the world, really. And he ended up taking classes at Evergreen Valley College to hone in his craft. And currently we have an exhibit there with Hadi's work called Fragments. And that's a Chopsticks Alley presented exhibit along with other Asian artists. So now, he's basically going back to the arts again. And he wants to spotlight the current state of humanity, or rather inhumanity. So he also has some work at the Young Museum in San Francisco, the Triton in Santa Clara. So he's won a bunch of awards too, since I've known him. So he's just like quite the guy, quite the man. I'm going to have Hadi share with us your current work and tell us more about it. Okay.
This is completely different than my paintings about mistreatment of women.
Well, today it's about celebrating of women.
This is all about celebration. We have a Sufi poet of the 14th century. His book has been translated to 57 languages all around the world. And most of his poems uses the relationship between young people and wine and music and poetry and their problems as a metaphor for every problem between every human being all around the world. His poems relevant in every point in time, and beautifully written. So when I took Photoshop to learn how to use it, I challenged myself as a my project to take one of the poems and turn it into visual art. And it was three months of no sleep because I was learning Photoshop and creating this all from my imagination, just reading the line of the poems. So I created 13 frames like this. Each one of it represents one line of the poems. And this poem I chose, which is very appropriate for New Year, is called A New Beginning. And each line highlights a problem and tell you what to do to resolve it, right? And at the last line of it, it says, if nothing helps, maybe you are in the wrong place. Just pack up and go somewhere else.
I love that. Hadi, who's the poet?
He's called Hafiz,
Hafiz.
H-A-F-I-Z.
I've read his work. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, it's very famous. So this one and the next frame is part of the 13th frame that I painted. This one titled Heart or Mind. You know, she's confused about the relationship. She cannot decide to listen to her heart or her mind. And I think this one win $1,000 and currently decorates the office of the president of Mission College.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's only 8" by 12".
Wow. So what does it say? You should just make little small paintings, Hadi.
But you know, digital art is not as easy. If you want to create something original with meaning, is not a scenery. Scenery is easy with either if on canvas or with acrylic or in digital form. It's easy to do scenery, but when you try to paint something like this, it's actually harder than canvas. It takes much longer. Sometimes this is almost 50 layers. You know, for every little thing, you make one layer so you can move it around to put it in the right position instead of sketching, erasing, sketching, erasing. So it takes time. But I was very happy with the outcome. Yeah. And the next frame is from a different poem. And it's called Heartbreaker. I title it because the whole poem is about what you gain in cost to who. We try to be happy, gain something, but your gain is the loss of somebody else. And this poem is about this lady. In Persian poems, flowers and birds are lovers. The bird always
like
running
old
around
Bollywood
the flower
movies.
and singing. So we represent them as lovers. And then when this lady walking and try to pick a flower, all the birds come and scream, right? Because you're separating the two lovers from each other for your own happiness. That's the meaning of the whole poem.
So I'll just throw a little bit of light. So, you know, I know in Indian culture in the past, they did not really like, and this is like, I would say fairly, in the last 200 years, they didn't really like showing people, you know, in paintings like kissing or whatever. So even in Bollywood, it wasn't allowed before. So they would show flowers coming together. They would show birds coming together.
That's what it is still in Iran. At least
Yeah.
with the government we have. So in Iranian movies, even they show a scene of a husband and wife, they cannot show them on bed at all, even with clothing. But you have a full 2-hour movie and it has a nice story and very warm, heartwarming stories, but those things are not allowed. Yeah.
I love Iranian movies. I kind of grew up watching them. You know, in India, they would show them. And there are some incredible Iranian movies, just the feel, and how emotions are expressed without people touching each other. And
And we
yeah.
watch a lot of Indian movie, my childhood, Raj Kapoor. Oh,
Thank you, Esther, for showing the slideshow there. I just love your new work. It's very soft. It's completely,
it's
soft as
completely
in very
different. Yeah.
romantic.
So my new painting, which is acrylic, is this style. So taking a break from the other one.
Yeah,
Everybody complain why your work is so sad all the time. I said, how can you talk about certain things and not be sad? That's the point.
Well, your work is still sad. Your work is still sad theme-wise, but when you look at it, you're drawn to it because you're thinking, oh, look at that. Look at this beautiful lady. But then when you explain it, oh, well, she's actually ripping the heart a bird out.
But if I don't tell you the story, you wouldn't know what it is. You just look at the beauty of the work, right?
And that's the beauty of this show when we bring on an artist, because then you can tell us the intention, and then we look at the art very differently, right? When it's guided, if you will. Where can people see this work? Is it on your website?
It's my website on the digital tab. Yeah.
The digital tab.
Actually, I made a video with music behind it for the whole poem. It's a nice music behind it, and it shows frame by frame as it shows.
Oh, I'd love to see it.
Yeah. If you go to my website in the bottom, that's the only YouTube clip that I have. So you're
like advancing in technology.
Yeah, I mean, I love your work, Hadi, because it's like you accept every emotion. And, that's like my motto when I'm doing my meditations and when I'm working with people. There's a tendency to go after joy, and there's nothing wrong about it. But then you can't suppress or hide from the dark side of yourself and just go after light,
I usually,
so you have
to. I usually, when I describe myself, I say I'm a realistic artist. I don't mean because I draw realistically. I'm realistic because I understand there is both sorrow and happiness at the same time if we look around us. So you cannot ignore one and just concentrate on another one.
Exactly.
We, on the panel with us here, we have Ashley, who's an illustrator, graphics designer, drawing person, and then Emma, who's a poet, a writer. I would love to hear what your thoughts are, or if you have any questions for Hadi, please feel free to chime in.
And there's Marcos, our friend.
Yes, and Marcos, who's quite a romantic guy because he's always with the tree. So I don't know. So Hadi, do you get your inspiration from other places besides, current state of affairs and from poetry? Any other place?
I get my inspiration from my experience in life and from all I see around me. Nature is either the living or the mountains or the trees. They're all you learn from. That's my school. The nature is my school. A lot of people, when you realize I didn't go to get a degree in art, they discount me, but the nature is my school and I'm happy with it. You like it or not. Yes, I just was going to apply for a show. They say one of the requirements is you have to have a fine art degree.
I always find it like, I feel like we create too many institutional blocks.
Yes.
To our own, growth. We just put those blocks there and say, hey, we have created this box you need to fit in. And art essentially is about breaking those boxes. So it's kind of weird when I see that.
I know. Artist is what the restriction put on artists is really I hate it, because they want you to stick with one style. But if I have multiple styles, if you can do it, why not?
That
They
is
try
your
to make
creative
it,
flow.
yeah, they want it that way to make it easy for themselves, that when they see the art, they say, okay, this is hard. And if it's a different style, they get confused.
Yeah. Because
They don't know what to do.
so much of art history is written by Westerners, and the way
Yeah.
they see life is in classifying
Right.
styles.
And it has
And
to be
so
that way too,
yes,
like them.
yes.
If you're not like them, you're not a good artist yet.
They call it craft, right? Because
I call it
that's
crap.
like low art. They call it craft. Isn't that funny?
Did did you hear what Hadi said?
No,
Oh,
no,
what
don't
did he
mention
say?
it. Don't mention it.
Did he say crap or something? I don't know. Oh my goodness. Anyways, okay, so I have to share what Chopsticks Alley is working on, right? We're working on a book called Art Venture Down the Mekong. And Dr. Smita is actually leading the artistic team on that path. And what's really, really neat about this book is it's composed of 8 art lessons created by 3 artists, including Dr. Smita. And it's taking people on a journey down the Mekong Delta into the ocean to the Philippines. And each country, we're creating a very easy to do art making activity that's meant for anyone, seniors, children, anyone. And then we also suggest like this little low cost art kit that people can, if you're a senior, you're going to get we're going to have 500 free art kits for Vietnamese seniors. These are funds that we raised from the Google Asian team at Google who raised these funds for us so we can have this book. So I'm super excited. And we have Ashley who's doing illustration on it. We have Cynthia Cao, Amanda Pasquale, who are the artists in the book. And we have Esther who's helped writing it. And Ashley, not Ashley, Harleen, a bunch of people working on it. It's like super
And
exciting.
you, Trami.
Oh, and
So yeah, it's an all-women team, of course, with Jackie, who's
oh yes,
doing
Jackie, our photographer. So he's gonna
yeah,
make us look good too.
yeah.
And Cynthia, who's designing the book. It's like super fun. And I think it's only the beginning. And I think maybe the next book we should have like all these different artists like Hadi and everybody else. And maybe it's a journey somewhere else in Asia.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Middle East.
because I think because we can explore the world either through its history of wars, or we can explore the world through the history of art and
Arts,
culture, right?
yeah.
So I'm hoping that our little book, can go a long way.
Yes, and I think it will. And I love what you said, Smita, because it is exploring our, different cultures through the art, which is a very different perspective than like from a tourist vantage point, because you're getting the history and you're getting the people and the daily lives, right? And I think with you, Hadi, that's what I feel like with you, like sharing about Persian New Year today, sharing your art and your poetry. Really, that's what you're doing is really all encompassing of sharing your culture in like 5 minutes.
One of the things that they do in New Year, when the families get together, they read poetry. Do you know the Hafez book? They okay, there is no home without it. I don't know what you say when you read the fortune, and somebody just puts a finger here, and they read what the poem says. And that will be about his life or her life. That's what they do on New Year's night.
That's exactly the message they need that day, in that moment.
So in all these Asian cultures, we all do the same thing essentially, but in a different way. So yours is poetry. I know like in the Asian, as in like Chinese, Vietnamese, we have this these sticks in a jar, and each stick has a number, and you shake it, right? So it's like these chopsticks with numbers on them, and you shake it until one falls out. And that number, then you go to this cabinet and you go, here's my number, and they give you your fortune,
Door number 4.
Yes. And I'm like, if it's a good one, I keep it. I'm like, see, I knew. If it's a bad one, I'm like, what was accidental? Let me do it
It
again.
can be number 4. Right, Rami? I don't think it can be number 4.
No number 4. No number 4 for me. But yeah, so it's really fun. What about you? Actually, Dr. Smita, do you think you want to draw a card for us today? I feel like, we need some Zen namaste positivity before we end our show today, right?
Sure. So let us draw a card for
The collective.
the collective.
Collective, Medi-Veggie, and also friends, our artists, and everyone who joined us today. We want to get a message.
Yes. And so, I love this deck. It's my favorite deck. It's, maybe Hadi and I can work on creating a deck.
Oh, but I have to translate. I don't think I can translate as my poems.
No, not a poem deck, but an oracle card deck.
Oh,
So you do the drawings and Smita writes the messages. That would be really fun, actually.
That'll be fun. Yeah. All right. So calling on. All right. Oh my goodness. Okay. This is wow. So I don't know if this is for the collective or this is just for me, but hold on. I'll have to mirror my
No,
video.
it worked. No, it worked.
It did?
Yeah. Mary Magdalene.
Yes. Mary Magdalene, Teacher Awakens. And it says you have something important to share. Follow the inner call. Don't let anything stop you. That's a message for Medi-Veggie.
Yes, for everybody.
Yeah. It's like, when you are doing this looking within and your inner work, which means looking at your dark and light and, really sort of learning to connect with yourself in a deep way, the teacher in you does awaken. So I think the times that we are moving into is calling for that. And during this time of COVID, we've all been like butterflies, like caterpillars in a cocoon, right? So I think slowly that butterfly in us, that teacher in us is awakening. So I will quickly look at any other messages. So Mary Magdalene was a great visionary and teacher with clairvoyant abilities because she was able to see angels and the soul of her twin flame Master Jesus after he had passed away. She also had the ability to shake up crowds of people to bring their hearts and minds back to the highest good.
That is for Medi-Veggie.
Yes.
Yeah.
She now devotes her time to supporting us and bringing about the radical changes the earth needs in order to prosper, and to encouraging those who feel the need to teach the joy of spirit. And Mary is a rebel heart in many ways. I think it's a lovely message. I really think so.
And it's perfect for Women's Month too, right?
Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. Because she was, if you look at the Christian text, right, she was really treated unfairly. And how many women are rejected and how many women are not acknowledged for what they bring to the table, right? So I think she's the perfect card actually for the Women's Month.
Well, thank you so much for doing that for us. And I'd like to thank all of our friends, panels for joining us today. If you're on Zoom, stay with us because usually the party keeps going. Emma's sending all of her ginger beer to us. So we're waiting for the doorbell to ring at any minute. Join us next Wednesday at 12:15 where we share recipes, vegetarian recipes, as well as meditation, and always something fun and exciting. And I think next week we are doing South Asian women to feature to celebrate Women's Month. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
I know, right?